He was betrayed by his own brothers, sold as a slave, and wrongly imprisoned, only to end up ruling an entire nation. This is the incredible, true story of Joseph. Joseph was a young man, deeply loved by his father, Jacob, and set apart by God for a monumental purpose. God communicated with him through powerful dreams that unveiled a future so grand it was beyond anyone's imagination. But these divine promises didn't bring celebration from his family. Instead, they brought contempt. His own brothers, the ones who should have protected him, were consumed by jealousy. Their jealousy festered, growing into a burning rage, and that rage ultimately led to the ultimate betrayal. One fateful day, they ambushed him in a field. They seized him, stripped him of the special coat his father had given him, and threw him into a dry, empty pit. As he cried out from the darkness, they sat and ate, callously debating his fate. They could have left him to die, but instead, they saw a caravan of traders and decided to profit from their cruelty. For just a few pieces of silver, they sold their own brother into slavery. Then, they returned home, dipped his coat in animal blood, and lied to their heartbroken father, telling him Joseph had been killed by a wild beast. In a single, devastating day, Joseph lost everything. His freedom, his identity, and what he thought was his future, or so it seemed. Taken to Egypt, a foreign land with foreign gods, Joseph was sold again, this time to a high-ranking official named Potiphar. Despite his circumstances, Joseph didn't become bitter or resentful. He served his master faithfully, with integrity and excellence, and God's favor was so evident on him that everything he touched prospered. Potiphar saw this and entrusted Joseph with his entire household. But Joseph's trial wasn't over. When he refused the advances of his master's wife, she falsely accused him of a crime he did not commit. Without a fair trial, without a chance to defend himself, he was thrown into the king's prison, forgotten, alone, bound in chains. It was a descent from the pit to the prison deeper into darkness. Yet even in the darkest corners of that dungeon, God was still with him. God had not forgotten his promise. Joseph continued to live with character, and soon, the chief jailer put him in charge of all the other prisoners. His leadership and wisdom shone even in the bleakest of places. Years passed, long, silent years. Then, one day, the king of Egypt, the Pharaoh, was plagued by two disturbing dreams that none of his magicians or wise men could interpret. Panic began to grip the palace. It was then that a former prisoner, the king's cupbearer, remembered Joseph, summoned from the dungeon, cleaned up, and brought before the most powerful man in the world. Joseph stood with quiet confidence. He told Pharaoh, "It is not in me. God will give Pharaoh a favorable answer." By God's divine power, Joseph perfectly interpreted the dreams. He revealed that 7 years of incredible abundance would be followed by 7 years of devastating famine. But he didn't stop there. He laid out a detailed plan for Egypt to gather and store grain during the good years to survive the bad. Pharaoh was so astounded by Joseph's wisdom that he did the unthinkable. He looked at this Hebrew slave, this former prisoner, and declared, "Can we find a man like this, in whom is the Spirit of God?" In that single moment, Pharaoh made Joseph the second most powerful man in all of Egypt. From a prisoner in chains to a ruler on a throne in the blink of an eye. Just as Joseph had prophesied, the famine came, and it was severe, affecting all the surrounding lands, and who came to Egypt, desperate and begging for food. His 10 older brothers, the very men who had sold him into slavery, now bowed before him, completely unaware that the powerful Egyptian governor they were pleading with was the brother they had left for dead so many years ago. Joseph held their lives in his hands. He had the power to destroy them, to exact revenge for all the pain they had caused him. But instead of vengeance, he was overcome with emotion. He turned away and wept. After testing their hearts to see if they had changed, he finally revealed himself. In a moment, charged with decades of pain and confusion, Joseph looked at the men who had ruined his life and spoke one of the most powerful lines in all of history. "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good." In that moment of reconciliation, betrayal was transformed into forgiveness. Years of pain found their ultimate purpose. And what began as an act of suffering became the means of salvation for his entire family and for the nation. Joseph's story is a powerful testament to this truth. Just because it hurt doesn't mean it was wasted. Just because you were betrayed doesn't mean God has abandoned you. The pit was not your ending. The prison was not your final destiny. God is still writing your story, and He specializes in turning messes into miracles. If you're in a season of your life that feels confusing, painful, or hopeless, this message is for you. Thanks for watching. If this story encouraged you, follow our channel for more powerful Bible stories like this one. Share this video with someone who feels forgotten or overlooked. And if you believe that God is still at work in your life, comment below. God is not done.